Okay, I'm gonna have to do this in like two parts because it's just gonna be a lot to say. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be a lot to say, and it's never been put in this perspective. You. It's not like you're not gonna be able to hear what I'm saying and put the pieces together yourself eventually. But the way I'm about to break it to you is gonna set things in perspective. Now, so fuck that whole shit about Anunnaki. All right, that's when they talk about Anunnaki. That's them entities trying to reclassify themselves as something else, so you don't see them as that. Everything in existence is to go against what Almighty is, but you don't know Almighty is not a person. Almighty is a pure energy, so it doesn't reflect on the actions of particular energy. Once Almighty make a motion, that motion is the motion. So you had the fallen, right? The fallen. The fallen was particularly chosen creations that served as service in the universe. Now, this was before coalesce was even taking place. This was before primordial deities and all that. Like, they were in service. You know what I'm saying? They was in service, but they were supposed to be in service to a specific value. So now you had one, and then you had a group of other ones. And the group of other ones revered that one because that creation was made in an aspect. So it was like love was put into that creation to give that creation an aspect of understanding. So the knowledge that one creation had, it transcended everything through all the other creations, right? So this is how that particular creation got followers. That's how things followed it as it fell, right? As it fell down to the earth, things followed it because of the knowledge that it had. You gotta keep in mind, knowledge is power. You know what I'm saying? That's why they even get this from. That's where it even comes from. Like when you see books, they don't read books and all this shit, and knowledge is power, and that's where they get that shit from. You know what I'm saying? So when that creation fell here, everything that they were in is all that they ever knew. They didn't know nothing else. They only knew in service of. And the fact that they went against this almighty power, or almighty motion took place. So when they started saying things like, oh, this individual got knowledge and it should be, before I even go there, coalesce energy was still taking place. When this creation was made, it was created for a job title. A job title. All right. That job title got changed. And you hear it when you listen to the Egyptian stories that were twisted around. When you listen to all these other stories, they were twisted around. And all the deities or God type figures was like, yo, we sent something out to watch after certain things, right? This falls in every other understanding. But yo, slash that knowledge like a barcode. No religions exist. It's not a such thing as a religion. No religions exist. The Almighty don't need religion. It's the Almighty. So then you got this from the understanding of these fallen energies. That's what they create. They create everything in that aspect of reality. So when they came here, they need to find something to tear away what you were. That's why I said I got to do this in two parts. But while telling this story, I will add this understanding. The original creations were similar to me, but not actually like me. They were beings of originality. They were divine seeds that didn't need no food, didn't need nothing. Okay, these were beings that existed. They were to grow into gods or grow into I don't want to say gods because that term is created by the fallen, right? So they were beings that were to grow into how the almighty energy is. So that's pure energy. It's not a body, you know what I'm saying? It's not somebody that be thinking, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make that, da-da-da-da. It's pure divine almightiness, period. So y'all don't even concept that as a reality yet. It doesn't debate. It's almighty. It doesn't have a conversation. It's almighty. It has things that does that for it. This is where you get the understanding of a Metatron and all these other concepts of reality. Like they got to fill that in with those gaps because even the creations can't stand or stand next to what Almighty is. Can't stand next to it. It's not a conversation. So their level of disdain for the Almighty is to bring it down in the concept of a mind to some understanding for us. So they was hoping that, see, it's going to get deep. It's going to get deep. Just follow me for a minute. They was hoping that within recreating the value of how you see particular understandings, that they would use your energy to recreate that standpoint, because they were stripped of everything. They were stripped of everything. You got to keep in mind, dilution is still taking place, but they wasn't supposed to fall. They were supposed to be in service out of unconditional love. So that energy was tampered with through the understanding of what they want to call free will. It's not a free will that exists. It's not a real thing. That's just giving story points. It's like saying, I'm going to put this in the story to give you something to change your mind as far as how you look at what almightiness is, right? Let's stay on point, though. Let's stay right there with these fallen for a minute, because it's going to shake up some things. So the fallen, they had a job. They couldn't stand in their job. They couldn't do what they were supposed to do. So they got stripped of everything universal. So as they're falling, right, heat, pressure, and force takes over all again. So now they're flung. They're flung. And they're flung way out. They're flung way out somewhere. So now it was considered as fallen because they were stripped from a pedestal. The universal alive ether that was through and through them. You know what I'm saying? That gave them the understanding to be of protecting to that energy, or be of service to that divine energy, because it doesn't need protecting, but be of service to that divine energy. Why? Because when divine energy came into the ether first, it started making things. It wasn't making it like, I'm about to create this, I'm going to create that. You have happenstance. So divine took the first waves, right? The first waves that were rippling and curved them into different things, like the black hole, or the hole that the energy actually came through to sit stable as it created life. Even the waves that went in front of the light beams that were traveling all across the universe. So you go past that understanding of where divine's coming into existence, and you go light years that way. You go light years left, right, whatever catacorn, just go light years that way, eons. Then you get a formalization of that as a value. So this is where they came in at as a creation. It's like, yo, I'm going to create this. This is why they was the most beautiful. They was a part of a wave. That's why I was like, yo, it's so beautiful. It got all the knowledge in the universe. It's because everything that was happening before that had to be instilled into what they like to call angels, quote unquote. They wanted to give it the title of angels. So these supposed angels had a job eons away from the Almighty. You can't even get close because how great and vast this power is. You can't even be next to it. Never was next to it, only had the understanding of that. So their disdain for Almighty, because that power could have just changed something. It's like saying you got a manager at your job, and the manager represents the big CEO fully. It's going to represent that fully. But the manager ain't about to have no smoke with nothing, doing nothing left, right, or indifferent. It's like, nah, you went against that. This is what's happening. So this is even where they get the concept of individual beings being in a value of God, because this energy had power to eradicate if it need be. The Almighty ain't checking for nothing. The Almighty like, yo, what they doing? It ain't nothing like that. It ain't even going down like that. So where they at eons away from the Almighty, sitting out in West Bubble somewhere, they were supposed to watch out for coalesced energies that were slowing down at that particular spot where they were coming into fruition. When that light was downloaded into those coalescent spots, they were supposed to sit there and make sure the primordial deities came into value, but in the right way. They say, yo, why I gotta do this? They question. That was Satan. That's how Satan came into the value. So they all powered up somewhere out in West Bubble, out in the universe. They like, yo, why I gotta do this? I go talk to the divine myself. The representative of the divine is like, you ain't talking to nobody. You're going to do your job, or you're going to lose everything that you about. Got the rest of them like, yo, why we gotta lose everything that we're about? Why you questioning me? Oh, I got all these with me. They with me. Listen, your job is this. Do what I tell you, or this is what's going to happen. They didn't like that. So they tried to call themselves waging a war against the original, the manager that ran them, that was connected to the Almighty. They tried to raise a war against that energy. Now that energy, if you know Dragon Ball Z, that's like, that ain't Daikishin. That's like the Omni King. So the Omni King ain't God, but the Omni King represent for the Almighty. You know what I'm saying? It represents for the Almighty force. So you're like, I ain't gotta fight you. Bang, I take it all from you just like that. One snap of the finger, stripped them all the energy. So at that point, everything that they was turned to fire. Wings, flesh, the melanin came off them. The Nero universal melanin came out of them, and it was left where it was given to them at. It never came down here with them. It was left there where they were at. And then they got flung across the universe. That's why they called it fallen. Because where they were, they don't have that access to that power. Not even a conscious connection, right? So they got flung. And the first one that spoke, the Satan, and keep in mind, Satan is not a person. It's an action. It's something you do. Like when we say, yo, you disrespected me. Disrespect, what does that mean when somebody disrespects you? They come at you and they talk sideways and all that. That's disrespect. Satan means to go against. That's what that means. So when they say the Satan, it went against its job title. And everything that was revering Satan to be something because it had some form of value, not even knowing where they stand at in the universe, they started saying, well, we rock with you. But keep in mind, they all had a download of divine pure energy. It's about to get juicy. So what happened was they all fell, and they fell to one of the greatest coalesced bodies that fell. So they fell through that, and they actually fell through a black hole. And they felt as they fall and they hit, boom. They ain't got nothing now. They ain't got nothing. But where they fell was where some of the primordial deities that we like to use that term, primordial deities, the coalesced energy of divine presence or divine light inserting into inanimate objects, becoming beings, right? So now you get a time frame. This is why I can speak about Barubador that predates Christ 2,000 years, right? And you got to keep in mind, they used to have stories that was written that they removed out of different stories where they talked about the divine cities that were the divine cities that were in jungles that was hidden by the woods. Christ wasn't even a thought pattern in nobody's mind at that point. You know what I'm saying? When they talk about the cities that were hidden in the jungles that were protected by divine energy, that housed divine seeds, right? So this has been going on way before you get a concept of anything of people aspect-ish. You know what I'm saying? Egypt, any of that. This is way before that. I'm just throwing out numbers when I say 2000 and whatever. I'm meaning a long period of time, right? Whatever. So what happened was these deities, they fell, but they still had the mind. They was able to think, but when they fell here hard. They fell here hard, and they fell inside of a mountain. Okay? There wasn't like how they tell you the story, like, oh, Moses got these people and led them to the caves, and they was in the caves and all that, and he was the one that did XYZ. Like, it ain't quite like that. That's them trying to patch it to something to add it to a particular understanding. It ain't go like that. These bodies or these beings, they fell and they cracked through the earth, and they fell into a mountain, right? The rubble and all that, and housed them. You ever seen the Monkey King when they was like the gods took his power and threw a mountain on top of him and made him, he was like stuck inside the mountain for like 1,000 years until something freed him. Right? So it's like that. So when they came down here, they was broken all the way. They ain't had nothing to protect them from the sunlight. They was so pale, you know what I'm saying? But then they was walking on all fours. They was literally, and you gotta keep in mind. See, they don't even want me to go on this. They don't even want me to talk right now. You gotta keep in mind, animals, right? When they talk about animal genetics and all this and stuff like that, animals are a creation of divinity, regardless how you see it. It's still a creation, but they're a lower creation. They are lower creation than the creation of the seeds. So them being a lower creation, right? And when you get power removed from you, you are stripped from the concept of this standpoint of where you are. So when they got dropped down, they meant fallen. That means they fell through creation. That's what that meant. So they fell from being something great and created as a worker for divine, or having a job as angel or angelic. They fell from that lower than the creation, the seed, the divine seeds that were going to grow into divine energy, pure divine energy. So when that fell and it hit, boom, they were animal-like, right? Animal-like. They walked on all fours. That's where you get these pictures from. And they show you this crazy shit. Super white, you know what I'm saying? With animal, like moving around like an animal, and they were stuck inside of a mountain. Don't get it twisted. I'm not talking about white people. Don't get it twisted. But we're going to get to that. So they were trapped because that's a hot travel. That's a hot travel. It's a lot to come from that. They like, yo, that was a lot. Like, imagine having the worst cold level. You're going to sleep for about a week or so. You know what I'm saying? So that's what happened. They slept for years and they stayed in there, but they was brought all the way low. So they was what you want to call savage. You know what I'm saying? They would devour anything with blood, because plasma is where the energy is, right? So all the creations have a form of plasma. You know what I'm saying? So now they devour anything. This is where you even get cannibalism from and all that. Like, these are the fallen. But it was a group of them. It was a group of them. And that doesn't make them stupid. That just make them low. They were brought low. You know what I'm saying? So as they were brought low, they knew the job title that they were supposed to be in representation to protect and make sure the seeds of divine grow to their full potential. And they knew what it was supposed to be, because they, at one point, they had angelic energy and angelic powers. And then the head of them, which was the Satan, the one that went against them, he knew because he was endowed, or it knew because it was endowed with pure divine understanding. So it said at that point, yo, look, we were supposed to do this. So they got nothing but hate and disdain on them. Everything about them is hate and disdain. They like, I don't care about the Almighty. He's like, I'm going to do what I want to hurt you. I'm going to do everything I can to destroy everything that you are. So after a certain period of time, and we could jump around a little bit at this point, they saw fit to make a creation. They saw fit to make a creation. This is where it comes into where some people may get their feelings hurt or whatever. And I'm sorry, but it's the truth. All right. They saw fit to create something, and they created Caucasians. All right. When they created Caucasians in the understanding of where they were. All right. Out of lack of a bunch of divine energy. They didn't have enough to create them in their full totality. So they were created from the value of the fallen being brought low. That's how they were created. So when they created them, they downloaded all that information that came with them into them. So this is where you get the formalization of slavery, where you have them plastered over everything, where I can do it in your face, and temptation and all this. Like, this is what they felt. It's the same thing the fallen felt when the spokesperson or the manager over them was like, yo, y'all gonna be looking after the seeds. And they like, yo, why we gotta look after them? Well, it's for the divine. It's for the Almighty. They like, nah, we ain't doing that. They like, yes, you are. That's your job. So their job, and this is where you get the term in the Bible, defile the name of the Most High. Defile the name. Everything is in the name. The name itself, speaking the name of Almighty, brings creation into existence. So, with that being said, everything that was created was through the name of the divine. That's how things came into fruition. Even the seas, it was through the name of the powerful source of energy, the most powerful source of energy. So as they're down here and they're healing from being stripped of everything, they like, yo, we gonna create this, we gonna do that, we gonna do da. So you gotta keep in mind, manipulation took place way before we dealing with stuff like this now. And this is where we started getting sin. Sin was the action after being manipulated. Sin was what made you be manipulative.